All right, so let's keep moving. Now, this might be one of my favorite topics, writing killer subject lines. And, I could probably talk about this. I think I could talk about it for an entire day. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you just enough today to get a start, okay? And that's what I want for you. We could go deeper, and I think a lot of what's going to happen is you're going to learn. Remember, every email list is different. Every niche, every list, every creator, every author. So I write subject lines a certain way. That does not mean that everyone should be writing subject lines that way, okay? It's just what goes with my style, with my way. It matches how I write my emails. It matches how I talk. It matches how I am. And so that's why what I want to do is with this training, I want to keep you at the higher level so you understand some common rules and common best practices. But then from there, I really want to challenge you to personalize this to yourself, okay? So let's start at the highest level. What is the purpose of a subject line? Stop the scroll, get an email open. That's it. Now, we talked about this in the last video, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but here's the old saying, right? If a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, did it make a sound? My answer to that question has always been, who cares? And that applies here. If you wrote the best email in the world, you spent hours writing the most killer email, you have the most killer product to promote, it's awesome, it's epic, but your subject line sucks, so people did not open it. Did it make a difference? Who cares? Right? So the subject line is one of the most important parts of an email. It's probably the part that I spend the most time and energy on. So I want to go over some subject line best practices, okay? Again, like I said, we will give you far more examples. We will give you far more details, and we'll add more training and go over this in a lot detailed way, but kind of want to give you just enough so you can get started, and then from there, you will learn a lot of it on your own, okay? So number one, short and sweet. Oh my God, I am so tired of seeing people put this, don't do this. This is one of my biggest pet peeves, okay? And I will yell at my own copy team when they do this. Don't write an entire sentence in the subject line. Come on. Not an entire sentence in the subject line, okay? We are talking 8 words or less. Why? Okay, the key to use is your mobile phone, okay? One of the tips I give you in the coming tips is to always send a test email. Most people now, 80% more, I think it's 80%, I don't remember the exact stat, of emails are now being checked on mobile phone. All right, forget mobile. Now people are starting to check them on their watches. So on mobile phones, the subject line gets cut off. Yes, you might send a long subject line and then do a test send to yourself on Gmail and check on your desktop, and you can write like this long of a subject line, but on mobile it gets cut off here. So I like to go 8 words maximum. Also, remember the eyes. Remember Microsoft's study in 2015 that said the average attention span of a human being now is 8 seconds. Goldfish have 9. We move on, man. So if you write too long of a subject line, it's hard on the eyes, and the person's like, I have to read it. I'm going to skip. I know, sounds petty. Believe me, it's statistically and scientifically proven. So is 8 words a hard rule? No. If you're like 9 and you love it, okay, fine. But if you're 12, it's too long. It's just too long. We'll give you examples, all right? We're going to do examples at the end of this video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So, short and sweet. Now, let's move on. Visual appeal. What do I mean by that? Is your subject line visually appealing? Remember, the first part, I talked about this in the last video. The first part, before you can get someone to even read your subject line, is to get them to stop scrolling. Now, sometimes your name will carry enough brand value. So, for example, I'd like to think that now, the name Anik Singhal, when someone is subscribed to me, that alone carries some value. People will open the email because it's me emailing them, right? But beyond that even, they're scrolling. They may not even be looking at the from name. I want to make sure I'm putting anything to draw the eyes to my subject line. And that's where I love to use parentheses that are the curved, brackets that look like this, numbers, like the actual number sign, the and sign. Why? Because most subject lines are just a sea of text. So how do you break up a sea of text? You use dash, you use hashtag, you use the slash, right? You do underscore, so you create like a blank line, which creates this weird space. So you could be like, hey, guess, and then just have blank lines. You don't want to do any of this every email. But remember, you got a sea of emails, And then all of a sudden there's this one that has like a big chunk missing in the middle, right? If you write subject line. So I'm using like underscore, underscore, underscore together. I use numbers, actual numbers, dollar signs, any kind of character, right? I'm looking at I got exclamation point, the at sign, hashtag, dollar sign, percent sign, caret sign, and sign, asterisk, parentheses, dash, plus, equal. Anything that's not a letter or a number is a character, and it'll work. It'll help you visually break apart your subject line. Also, numbers are great because numbers are not letters. They help you visually break apart your subject line. So how do you visually make it so it's a little different, just different enough, all right, just different enough to stop them from scrolling? Okay, now let's move on to number 3, attention grabbing. Does it grab people's attention? Does it spark curiosity? What are you saying in it, right? So I'll tell you, one of my favorite subject lines I remember that opened like crazy was, "My plane almost crashed this morning." How do you not open that? Like, if you know me, how do you not open that? My wife has a joke that she actually unsubscribed from all of my email lists when we were dating because she says I drove her crazy because I would send subject lines like, "Hey, are you free tomorrow?" Or, "Hey, I tried calling you," or, "Hey, urgent." So those can spark curiosity, right? They might be blind. I don't do them every time. You can't do them every day. You can't repeat every day. But I do them sometimes, and they spark curiosity. Or I might, we just went through, at the time I'm filming this, we just went through this pandemic with COVID. So the letters COVID or the word COVID has a lot of just gets our attention, right? So I might put that in the subject line. Of course, if it's relevant and whatever I'm writing about has something to do with it, obviously. But I'm trying to, what can you do? What words can you put? How can you generate curiosity? How can you create, basically the biggest thing is, how do you spark curiosity? So that makes them want to open. It's an open loop where they're like, what's he talking about? I must know.